something that is fascinating about brain cells is that they work in symbiosis in such a way that they are aligned to meet a specific thought that you have. When you have something new that you are thinking of, it's an alignment of cells that do fire in a specific order, and they leave some type of a blueprint over there. We all have positive things that are true about us. What we need is to constantly bring them out in such a way that we can use that knowledge to ruminate something positive and something that can help us transform our life. Satan is not creative, but is very repetitive. Satan only knows how to repeat things to you until you believe them. Because chances are, the more you hear something, the more it becomes a part of you. Hello and welcome to Unbounded Growth, a podcast that challenges you to grow a better version of yourself. If it's the first time for you to join us, my name is Adam, and today I will be hosting a solo podcast or a solo session because my friend Marc Alain was not feeling very well, and he had a problem with his voice. So my thought and prayer are with him, and I hope he feels better. And today we are still going through the Craig Groeschel's book, Winning the Battle Over Your Mind. And I'm going to be covering somewhere around the chapter 6, chapter 7, talking about ruminating and talking about renewing your thought or your way of thinking, and touching a little bit also on the idea of perspective and things like that. Apart from that, I had a very wonderful but also busy week talking about the mind. I actually spent last week analyzing brain cells. And something that is fascinating about brain cells is that they have this firing mechanism that is within them. They just get excited and they get fired, and they're interconnected. They work in symbiosis, in connection, in such a way that I think we talked about it last week, that they are aligned. They are aligned to meet a specific thought that you have. So when you have something new that you are thinking of, when you have an idea that comes to your mind, it's an alignment of cells that do fire in a specific order, and they leave some type of a blueprint over there in such a way that whenever you're going to go again and get the same thoughts, it's going to fire again in the same path, and that help those cells conserve energy. So the memory help brain cells conserve energy, so they don't have to start over. You don't have to create new patterns every day. And it's actually also how basically all the thoughts get formed and everything happens in how we even start taking actions, how we even speak, how we even walk. It's basically an alignment of specific pathways in the brain that define that. And the process of thinking also goes the same way. When you have a positive thought, it's a pattern in your brain that is locked in, and it stays there. And if you keep on feeding it, it stay there, and it stay basically groveled, or it's engraved, if I can say. It says engraved in your brain. And when it says engraved, the brain doesn't have to think a lot more for it to get there. And that was just very, very fascinating to be able to observe that, how the brain cells are firing. That was very good. And today we're going to be discussing a little bit more on that topic, not to the neuroscience aspect of things, more toward the behavioral aspect of things, as Craig Groeschel is putting it in this book, Winning the Battle Over the Mind. Apart from that, I've also been working on my own book, so I'm hoping to be able to present you my first book very soon that I've been working on Apart from the book, I also have new ideas for new books and so on. So that has been amazing. Let's just jump in correctly and let's start talking about rumination and renewal. First, I want to touch a little bit on what is rumination. What does it mean to ruminate? So, and this is going to sound a little gross, so just bear with me here. In the structure of the stomach of a few animals, so a few herbivores mostly. So from herbivores, I'm talking about cows or sheep or goats and so on. They have a specific structure of their stomach. They have a 4-pocket stomach in such a way that there is a pocket in their stomach that keep the grass that they eat or the leaves that they are eating get all stored at a specific place. So basically they take things, they put in their mouth because, as you understand, digestion starts in the mouth. So you take things in the mouth and then they chew them, but they don't chew them perfectly well. They send them, most of them, because just for efficiency purposes, they send them down into their stomach. After sending them down, it gets stored in a specific pocket. Now, what would happen is that whenever the cow or the goat is at rest now, it's sitting now on its own, it would ruminate all of these grass that it ate, and after ruminating them, it's then release them back in the stomach, and then it start chewing them properly. And then this time when it goes in toward a different pocket that goes into the transformation, and it gets the nutrient that it needs. And in the principle of thoughts and ideas here is that the idea is to be able to get the most out of your thoughts, out of the positive thought that you have. Remember in the previous part, we talked about replacing the lie with the truth. Telling yourself what is true, telling yourself what is positive, telling yourself what is good and what is important and necessary for you. However, now we are looking at another aspect of it where it's not just that you are telling yourself. Let's say you told yourself so much stuff. You told yourself you're kind, you told all the stuff that you told yourself that you replace all the truth that you used to replace the lie. And Craig Groeschel is a Christian, so in the book, he gives a lot of tips, and we talked about it in the last episode. He gives a lot of tips on how to replace the truth, the lie with the truth. He talked about the Word of God. He talked about, for example, when you want to replace your anxiety, and there is an amazing verse in the Bible in Philippians chapter 4 about anxiety that you should consider when you are trying to replace the enemy's lie with godly truth. Now, going back to that idea, taking all those things into consideration, the truth that you told yourself, the way for that truth to stay and to become anchored in you is if you're ruminating to it. So the first time maybe when you got it, it just went straight into your stomach. It's just something you consumed directly. But this time, it won't just be something that you have consumed. It's also going to be something that's after consuming it, you are bringing it out and you start ruminating on it. You are starting to chew it again. You are starting to savor it again in such a way that now it can now take a new path that's going to become a part of you. It becomes nutrients. So it's no longer just stored at a specific location in your body, but it becomes something that goes beyond that location and become nutrient for your body to get nourished from. That's how you need to think about the truth that you have added now to your life, the truth that can be the truth about the Word of God that is in the Bible that you have decided to use. You can take that truth now that is in you, and you can start ruminating over it. That's made me think a little bit of a great philosopher, Socrates. Socrates talks about that principle a few times in his methods. He talks about the irony and the maietics in the methods, in the Socratic method. In that method, on the irony, for example, he says that each one of us has a truth that is hidden within us. And that truth, it's something that we ignore. We ignore the truth because we've been accumulating all this information. We all know what's good. Ever since we are children, we know what's bad and we know what's good. And we've been accumulating all of these good things within us. And Socrates just teaches that all you need to do, or all a teacher has to do to his students, is that first he needs to understand that the students have the truth or the knowledge within them of the positive things. And not just that they have that knowledge of those positive things, but also they could give birth to that knowledge within them by triggering them with specific questions, by bringing it up. And it's something probably that you have noticed even in your own life. When let's say you're in class, or it can be even a part in life, anywhere. So somebody's been trying to explain to you something, and it turns out to be just something you can't understand. But at a certain point, they're going to just say something else, and you will go, oh, that's a moment right there. It means that it's not that that person has given you new knowledge, but it's that you have given birth to the knowledge that is hidden within you. You have ruminated the knowledge that is hidden within you. You have ruminated the truth that is hidden within you. And we all know all these things that are true about us. We all have positive things that are true about us. What we need is to constantly trigger them. It constantly bring them out in such a way that now we can use that knowledge, or you can use that understanding to ruminate something that is positive and something that could be a part of our life, and it can help us transform our life on its own. And with this, we are a product of what we've been repeatedly bringing out. So ruminating is what? Ruminating in this concept of thoughts will be, as I said, you have a thought, or you have truth that are in your heart. You have these positive thoughts. And what you do, you start meditating over them. You start meditating over this truth. You start basically repeating it to yourself over and over and over again until it becomes who you are. Think about it. How even your name became your name. It had to be repeated to you. Whatever is repeated to you is what you become. If you've been repeated, or if you've been telling yourself every day that you are a failure, that you cannot do anything positive, that you cannot win, that you cannot succeed, that you have come to just go and accompany other people in the world, if you've been telling yourself that over and over again, if you've been just telling yourself that you are just another statistic, chances are you're just going to be another statistic. You're going to be within the numbers of the averages. You're going to be among the averages. But if you have been ruminating, or if you've been bringing out or telling yourself, meditating over the fact that you are very talented, because the Bible actually is saying that to each one of us a talent was given. If you can think about it and you can say that you are talented and you repeat that to yourself and that that talent of yours need to be used for other people's edification, to help others, to contribute for the progress of humanity. If you've been telling yourself that, you're going to become that. That's how it is. We are a product of what we repeat constantly to us. And I said that in the last episode, where we're closing the last episode. I say that the Bible says that Christ, Jesus, is the high priest for our confession. So sometimes you got to be careful with whatever we are confessing. Because whenever we start confessing things, there are things that might happen. They might happen. So whatever you say about your environment or whatever is being said to you, chances are you're going to be that way. Think about this way. Craig Groeschel is a Christian, as I said, and he's a religious man, and there's a concept of the devil and God in almost every religion. And he's putting it here that Satan is very creative. Satan is not creative, as I want to say. It's not creative, but it's very repetitive. Satan only knows how to repeat things to you over and over and over and over again until you believe them. Because chances are, the more you hear something, the more it becomes a part of you. Sometimes it even becomes like a joke. Let's say it was a lie. You understand it's a lie, you know it's a lie, but it's something that you hear over and over again. Even subconsciously, you're going to start becoming that. You're going to start repeating that to your own life and to yourself. And it's something that we have to be able to watch over ourselves. We have to be able to watch over how we think or what we are thinking of and stuff like that. Now, he's putting a few things here, Craig Groeschel. He says that if you want a few ways for you to ruminate things, for you to bring things out constantly, one thing you have to do, you should write it. You should write it down. So write it, confess it until you believe it. Write it, confess it until you believe it. When you write things down, and when I'm saying write it here, I know we have the tendency of typing things, which is great. But for the purpose of you to know something or to memorize it or to get it in your mind constantly, one thing that has worked for me is writing things down by hand, not even typing them. The reason why that is so important, I believe there's a neuroscience behind that I completely ignore at this time. However, there is a connection between our brain and our hands when we are writing in such a way that translates into knowledge. And what I mean by knowledge, I don't mean the stuff that you go to school and accumulate and all that stuff. No, knowledge is what stays after everything else is wiped out. That is the knowledge. It's the balance. You know, there is an input in and out. So if it enters in 1 year and it's getting out in the other year, whatever stays in between the 2 years, that is what knowledge is. And in this case here, when you write things down, let's say you journal, you write things down with your hand over and over again. You write it today, you write it tomorrow. And when you confess it, and I gave an example of this with my high school experience, that I would confess things. I would say things that I strongly believe in. And because I said that in front of people, I feel like, of course, it's some pressure that it adds to me, but it also something that it gave my brain, or it gave my brain the ability to stop pushing. It put my brain in alert that, hey, I have to know this. I have to be able to defend my word, to stand for what I just said. And I believe that this is very important for us to be doing is confessing, saying things, writing it down and confessing it. Because when you confess something, it's start becoming more and more a part of you. There is something that when I teach my students, we usually talk about the process of learning. And we say, how do we learn? And mind you, what you learn, what you really learn is what defines your life. What you really learn is what builds your character, is what builds your value, it's what builds your moral. And that can be scientific knowledge, or it can be spiritual knowledge, or it can just be general knowledge about anything. But what you learn is what stays in you. And when we're talking about the principles of learning, I usually tell my students that learning has about three levels. Is that first, we learn by hearing and by watching. So our eyes and our ears help us learn. And with that is when we see something and when we can hear, that's when you're in class or you read a book or so on, we only get about 50% of the knowledge. But when we start talking about it, when we start confessing it, when we start making it a part of our daily conversation, the knowledge comes from 50% to about 75%. So when you can talk about it to somebody, when you can confess it, it means that within you, it's about 75% of that is in you. Now, when you apply that knowledge, you get the pinnacle of knowledge. You have reached, when you are able now to take something that you can apply, now you can be a complete independent learner or a complete independent person in that specific field. It puts you in a position where you are now very knowledgeable, and not just knowledgeable, now you are almost an expert, because now you can apply what you know or what you have learned. And this goes in this principle of confessing it, saying it so many times, telling it to people. It's keep it in you, it's keep it between the two ears, and your brain keeps it in, and then you believe it. The more you tell it to yourself, the more you will believe it. And once you believe it, nobody has to push you anymore. Nobody has to babysit you anymore once you believe something. What happens after you believe something? Things become very automated. And there's a concept here in the book that Craig Groeschel talks about, automaticity. How does that happen? It happens when you first start writing things down, start confessing it, you start believing it, and then it becomes a part of you. All you have to do is to just go and do it over and over and over again, because it's something that is definitely a part of you. It's like in my field, designing microchips. I can look at things, I see microchips almost in everything. Anything, honestly, science related. If you just mention science, if you just mention engineering, biology, medicine, the only thing that comes to my mind in most of those cases is microfluidics and microchips, because it's something that I have accepted as a part of me. I have believed it, and I have done a lot of work in it, and I've applied it, and it's been something that is a part of me. And my brain is oriented that way every time there is a new challenge that comes in. The same thing with any positive thought that you have created for yourself, that you told yourself in chapter 5 when we discussed a few weeks ago. That when you have picked up that aspect, it becomes a part of you. The first course of action, the first thing that comes to your mind when a challenge comes in front of you is the truth that you have already told yourself. And that becomes completely automated. You don't even need to think about it. Your brain defaults to that. Have you ever heard any default settings on anything? It's basically that. It's your brain just default to a certain type of way of thinking and a certain type of way of doing things. And once you have reached that level to anything that you have confessed, honestly, I can even close this book and you can completely just move forward, because that is the most important thing, is when you have written down, you have confessed it, and you believe it. Once you believe it, you start walking by it. It becomes the principle that defines your life. Because as they say, as Craig Groeschel say here, there's a say that say, what your thoughts, they become words. What your words, they become actions. What your actions, they become habits. What your habits, they become character. And what your character, it becomes your destiny. Now, look at where thoughts came from, where destiny came from. Destiny came from thought. So, by deduction here, you can say what your thought, because your thought become your destiny. And we talked about it. We even mentioned this when we were talking about As a Man Thinketh by Jim Allen, is that behavior or character, all of these are just the fruits. If you're looking at the tree, those are the fruits. But what actually produces fruit? It's the roots. It's the seed. And the thought is a seed. Once you have thought of something, that something start growing in you. You start watering it, and you water it by doing what? Write it down, confess it, believe it. Good thoughts, you write it down. Good idea. It's like in entrepreneurship. Think about it. If entrepreneurs were not writing down the good idea they have, if they were not talking about people to them with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of happiness, if they did not believe in their own products, would we have anything created or invented or anything move forward? Probably not. But people have to believe in what they are designing, believe in what they are creating, and in such a way that that belief, that thought that was believed, that became words, can transform into actions, can transform into habits, can transform into character, and can become a destiny. It can help us become better. Again, what your thoughts, they become words. What your words, they become actions. What your actions, they become habits or behavior. What your habits, they become character. What your character, it defines your destiny. Your character is who you are. It defines a destiny. And Zig Ziglar said one thing. He said, repetition is the mother of learning and the father of action, which makes it the architect of accomplishment. How is that? The more we repeat it, we always say in science that repetition is the mother of science. Actually, in our field, repeatability is very important. We have to get statistical significance for us to actually move. And a lot of those statistical significance is not because we know some type of absolute truth somewhere. No, we scientists assume that we don't know an absolute truth. One thing we do know is stuff are repeated. Because it's amazing, actually, because that's in nature. Nature is very cyclic. Things go into a cycle. You know, if you've taken any biology class, you probably have like the nitrogen cycle. You know the nitrogen cycle, or things like the carbon cycle, that the phosphorus cycle, the rain, the cycle for rain. You know, the way the evaporation happens, and then it goes up in the air, and then it condenses, and then it pours, and then that water again going to evaporate. almost everything is cyclic in nature, which means things are repeatable in nature. If you're trying to mimic nature, or if you're trying to understand nature, you're going to confirm that you're getting at certain points by just getting repeatability. So in this case, once you repeat some things more, you repeat it over and over again, it becomes a part of your learning. And with my students, I actually even asked this on an exam, is that how do you learn? Review, 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 review. Which means what? Repeat, 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 repeat. And that's how you learn. And once you learn it, once you can repeat it over and over, that's how you can accomplish anything big. You will never accomplish anything big if it's not repeatable. Whether you're in science or in business, if you cannot reproduce it twice, 3 times, the only reason why I'm even speaking in this mic or I am recording myself with this camera is because this has been multiplied 1 million times, 2 million times, 3 million, billions of ways. It's been repeated over and over. It's been replicated over and over again for it to actually happen. So you need to be able to repeat things. You need to be able, for things to stay in, you need to ruminate them. You need to repeat them to yourself. You need to, again, write it, confess it, and you will believe it. A few things that I've told myself, just in terms of an exercise here, that's because I'm going to give you an example that I have told myself. The few things that I live by, that I've told myself every day I wake up in the morning, I tell these things to myself. I've told myself these things so many times that they have really defined my life, and they have really defined how I walk. They've really defined how happy I am. They really define my character, my entire life, what I live for. One of them is I am relevant to many people. So before I even think of anything terrible about myself, one thing I know for a fact is that I am relevant for so many people, which means that if I'm not there, so many people won't just be very happy about it. I'm relevant. I'm relevant to them. The other thing that I tell myself every day is I'm loved beyond measure. I'm surrounded by so much love, and that is something that I have to repeat that to myself over and over, because at certain points, even myself, I have doubted it. I've had a point sometimes where I'm just sitting on my couch at home and I don't understand that I'm loved. I don't feel like I'm loved. But something that I've been repeating myself over and over again is the fact that I'm loved. I'm loved first because I'm a Christian. I have had the privilege of believing in Christ, and Christ has called me and has been a part of my life, and I have a relationship with him. That's a huge part. And I'm loved. I'm loved because I was worth it for somebody else to give up their lives so that my life can be saved. So I am loved. I am tremendously loved beyond measure. I tell that to myself over and over again. Another thing that I tell myself is that I'm very valuable to society. It doesn't matter where I am. I'm in the US or I'm in the Congo. I'm very valuable to my neighbors. I'm very valuable to my community. I'm very valuable to the society as a whole. That to me is very important and essential. The other thing I tell myself every morning is that Congo needs me. In fact, I've repeated this myself for years. So if anybody who knows me knows how passionate I am about my country, how passionate I am about the Congo. And every time I say, Congo needs me. And just that is a truth that I tell myself and that I've kept and I ruminate over and over again, that Congo needs me, and that is important. The other thing that's really defined my life, if you know me, you know this about me, is that I believe with my entire heart that I am very talented. I am very talented. I can come up with ideas just like that. I believe that about myself, and I'm enthusiastic about it. I will tell you over and over again that, believe me, I'm talented. I'm very good at this. And if I'm not good at it, of course, I will tell you that I have limited knowledge about it. That's something that has changed about my life. So if you knew me maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was probably a guy who tried to know everything about everything, who was trying to just be a part of everything. I understood I was talented, but I just didn't know how to channel well those talents. But today I have tremendously improved in my ability of channeling my talents and understanding what I know and what I know very well. So when I know it, I will tell you about it. I can teach you it. And I believe that I am very, very talented. And when I feel like I can't, I know that I can. I can do all through Christ who gives me strength. Those are some of the truth that I ruminate over, that I tell myself over and over again. And I have believed it, and not just believed it. It's who I am now. It's just a part of my life, and it's something that I cannot change. And now to start wrapping up this episode, I'm going to jump over to part 3 of the book, where he talked about the reframe principle. Reframe your mind, restore your perspective. And he started this with a quote from the Bible. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. The first chapter here is chapter 7 in this book, and he starts talking about lenses and filters. Lenses and filters change everything about life. Look at my glasses right now. If I remove these glasses, everything around me becomes blurry. Completely. I can't even see. I can't even see 2 meters away if I remove these lenses that I'm wearing right now. Now, imagine if on top of these lenses there was something black that is on there, and I'm walking around. My perspective of the world will be that there is something black that the world has. And my entire life, I will live thinking that the entire planet has something black on it. And that something black is basically what defines the world to me. Is the perspective of the world that I have. It's through my lenses. If you have to be in my shoes, the world has something black on. That's how it would look like. And it will take what? It will take removing these lenses, removing this, and giving me better ones. And then I can see clearly. And Craig Groeschel tells a story in this book. He tells a story when he's trying to introduce the lenses. He tells a story of, imagine going to a party. You go to a party there are so many strangers at that party, so you pretty much don't know anyone at the party. And as you walk into the party, your friends that you trust, that is next to you, goes ahead and tells you that, man, you know what? Everybody here thinks you're weird. Like, everybody in this place thinks you're weird. Just as you walk into the party. Or they tell you that everybody in this place thinks you're an idiot. That's your friend that told you that. And this is what's going to happen if somebody tells you that, is that whenever you're going to see people, if somebody stares at you, you will think that it's because they think you're an idiot. If somebody is laughing, if you just see somebody laughs, you're going to think that it's because they think you're an idiot. Any movement that's going to happen at that party for that entire night will be, to you, the perspective will be, it's because people think I'm an idiot. It's going to quench your opinion. It's going to quench your self-esteem. It's going to destroy everything you stand for. How good you are at anything will be completely gone, will be completely diminished. Why? Because you had a certain perspective. You had certain lenses on which you were seeing through. Now imagine how you will feel if your friend comes later on and goes like, oh man, it was all a joke. You're not an idiot. Nobody believed that you're an idiot. I was just joking with you. Just see how that shift in perspective, how that would change. It will completely be a life changer. And so many of us live in those type of belief. Is that we've been told one thing and we have kept it and we have believed it. And again, it has installed. It's so easy for us to believe negative things. It's just so easy. It doesn't take a lot of energy to the body to believe in negative things. Positive things, on the other hand, is challenging because the world is not directly driving you toward positivity. The world is driving you straight towards what's negative and what is not useful, what is not important. It's where the world is driving it to. It's easy for you to do something, to do something that is not relevant or something that is not important than it is for you to do what's important, what actually, as you said, what you're getting paid for. Chances are you won't do what you're getting paid for, and you would want to do what you want to do. And what you want to do is not what you're getting paid for. And at the end, you get fired. So think about it that way, is that we want to do something that that all the negative part is what we definitely want to do. The world want to show us that. But it's now up to us to now take a filter, and that filter to use it to pass our lenses through it and to be able to see. And he's saying, Craig Groeschel says, remember, a lie believed as truth will affect your life as if it were true. We could say a lens with a distorted view will make lies seem like they are true. Now, lies will look like they are true if you are seeing them through the lenses of them being lies. If you are thinking that the lies that you can see are truth, then basically it's what's going to happen. It's your life just going to be like that. It's going to be something that to you, it's going to sound like it's true, although it's not true. That's why it's so important to think about what we think about. Think about what you think about. If we keep on thinking about things that are not true, or things that are negative, they are not benefiting us in any type of way or form, then that becomes a challenge. That becomes a problem, because if we're constantly thinking about it, chances are, as we said previously, it's going to happen. And life will always happen. There are always going to be challenges. There's always going to be things that they're not desirable to us. They're always going to be. But the lenses in which you see them changes everything. Changes completely everything. There's one thing that Craig Groeschel actually, he put here a few steps to take control over your thoughts and overcome our cognitive biases. And he says, first of all, you need to stay calm. You need to identify the situation, identify your automatic thoughts, and find objective supports evidence. I'm going to give an example that on this part here, how this part is applied to my life. I had a student this last week ask me a question. They say, how do you deal with the unexpected? Or how do you deal with the challenges of things, with the failure? How do you deal with failure? Do you just keep going? Do you just keep pushing forward? You see, like, we get encouraged so many ways by so many people that, hey, never give up, never give up. People tell us never give up all the time. Never give up, never give up. That's very good. It's something that very good to say to people, to never give up, because that's a motivation that people use. People write that everywhere. That do not give up, never give up, never give up. However, one thing that I've understood before in my experience is not just about the never give up part. Never give up is just a tiny tip of the iceberg. To me, there's a whole mountain. There's a whole decision process that goes to whether I should give up or I should not. There's a principle in economics that is called the sunk cost. Sunk cost is how? Sunk cost is like, for example, I'm going to give you an example. First, you buy tickets. Let's say you buy tickets to go to a concert. You already got the tickets and the concert's going to be outside. And then you watch the news that day, or you look at the weather that day. It says that it's going to rain. But you're like, oh man, I already got the tickets. And then what you're going to do is that you're going to get, you take your family, your friends, you'll be like, oh yeah, man, we already got the tickets. Let's just go. You spend money on transportation. You spend money on food, getting there and all of that stuff. And then you get there, it starts raining, it pours on you, and then you didn't have a good time. What's that? Sunk cost. All that money. You did not get the good time that you paid for. You did not get the experience. And it became more expensive than just you canceling or losing tickets. Now, going back to the never give up part. We hear never give up, never give up. When I answer to my students, I tell them the whole idea is not just about never give up. As an engineer or as a scientist, we have to separate failure and emotion. We completely have to separate that. In engineering, first I told them when things happen in engineering, when things fail at work, never to take it personally. I had that problem when I was my first couple of years of graduate school. I thought that I'm the one who has to solve the problem of humanity. So the never give up part, it drove me. It's pushed me so strongly. Never give up, never give up. And at certain points, I started understanding things. I started understanding that I have spent so much time attaching an emotion to my thoughts. I started attaching an emotion to how I react. The never give up part, it was me being very emotional about it. Now I changed the never give up part. I started thinking about it objectively. Because the worst thing that can happen to you is for you to be repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That is how you become stupid. So one thing that I've learned is that it's not just about never give up. It's about knowing how to give up. And for you to decide how to give up, or for you to decide to change your lenses, to change your filters, is for you to be objective about stuff. When you're objective about life, when you're objective about a problem, you separate your emotion, put your emotion aside. Let's be objective about this. Once you become objective about something, is when you can clearly see whether you should give up or you should not give up. Don't just go with the idea of never give up, never give up, never give up. Yes, sometimes you need to avoid the sunk cost. You need to be able to remove the emotions when you get a challenge, when you are challenged, when you are failing at something. Remove the emotions. Once the emotions are out, now start thinking objectively. And again, we are talking about thought. We are talking about the mind. Think objectively. Once you think objectively, you get a perspective. And the perspective is the wisdom, because you have the experience. We have the ability to actually think. We are human. We know we can make a difference, and we know we can think. And with that, start thinking objectively. when you think objectively, you get answers that are repeatable, answers that are strong, and you get solutions that could be transformative both to you, to your environments, and probably to the world. So that is one thing that I have learned on how to deal with challenges, on how to deal with difficult times. Apart from staying calm, is to remove all the emotional part and face it objectively. And with that, you can get better lenses. That's how you put on good lenses for you to actually see clearly what you need and where you're trying to accomplish. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's been really a pleasure recording and to just have this conversation with each one of you. Don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube, on Unbounded Growth on YouTube. And apart from YouTube, we are all in all the other platforms for podcasting, from Google Podcasts to Spotify to Apple Podcasts, anywhere where you listen to us to. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share this with your friends. You know, when you get something really nice, the best thing to do is to share it with your friends. So feel free to share this with your friends. And with that, again, we are here to support you. We are here to help you. And we have the growth nuggets that we've been posting on our websites. That is unboundedgrowth.org. So go to unboundedgrowth.org and you can find some of this transcript and some of these written content that we've been sharing with you. And we hope that you enjoy them. With that, I will see you next time and have a wonderful week.